video. Yeah, I haven't made one of those in a while. Anyway, cigarette. Glenos, very lovely man. Anyway, okay. So I really don't want to make videos I've already made. So blah blah blah. So yeah, just don't have any incentive. So, but exceptions will be made. So Trick has been doing these conversations with nihilists, and it's just such a waste of time. But anyway, you're stuck with it because there's nothing else happening. Anyway, all right. So how do you even get to this? All right. So people have this understanding of logic, and they say, okay, well, there's this thing called logic, and somehow they don't associate the logic with the fact that the facts, the actual facts, add up to something. And they do it through kind of exclusion, as funny as that sounds, but that's sort of how it works, right? If you say 2 plus 5 equals 7, what you're basically doing is saying, I'm excluding when I say 2, 3, 5, 10, 12, and when I say 5, I'm saying 5, not 6, not 4. And now you're excluding what the answer can possibly be, because you have two statements that are exclusionary, that just eliminate you saying, pink pigeons are lovely. No, that's not what's in there. 5 isn't pink pigeons are lovely. So that isn't going to work. You can't come up with a conclusion that doesn't have anything to do with the 2 and the 5, and what the 2 and the 5 have excluded from being possibly right. Now, your answer, you can say almost anything as an answer to 2 plus 5, but it'll be easily, probably, destroyed as being truthful or accurate, and because it's going to end up being flawed. And that's all that, but your answer is basically, the idea is that you can make an answer that will be as certain as the two things you added up. So as long as you're certain about the 2 and certain about the 5, there'll be a equals that's also a certain answer. It is true. You can try to defeat it, but you won't be able to defeat it if you did it right. If you got the right answer. If you added the two facts correctly, they'll give you a third fact that is as indestructible as the first two. That's the idea. So it's all about where the facts point, as I've said many times. That's doing logic. And there's obvious mistakes, non-contradiction, or just repeating what one of the facts says without even adding the second fact, or simple things like that. But anyway, so to this conversation thing, I wish they'd just have an MP3. Nobody shows a face, so what's the difference? But anyway, it doesn't really matter. I always thought, I don't know why YouTube never provided MP3. Why does it have to be a video? Stupid. Anyway, or even images that, you could do a slideshow of images that wasn't a video. But whatever. Separate subject, probably, maybe. Why the world is a stupid shithole is quite obvious. It's because people are stupid pieces of shit. And, so yeah, we have to live in shit. It's just really irritating. Alright, so Trick has stated that he thinks that there really is some is-ought gap. He's just defining a new one. So as if the other assholes who were saying, well, you can't really get from facts to an ought, you should. Yeah, you must. You're logically obligated, which means you're factually obligated. That's what logic means. If you say somebody's logically obligated, then they're factually obligated. The facts point there. There's no other. The 7's the answer. That's it. You're stuck. The truth is what it is. So anyway, the idiots, the one group of idiots, says that there's a gap between facts and shoulds or oughts that's somehow based in this idea that there are no facts. That there are no facts regarding anything of value. So you can't say that suffering sucks or torture is intrinsically bad. That's somehow not true. Even though there's no possible way to make it true in and of itself, there's no possible way, there's no counter fact that can in any way damage or dent the simple truth that torture is always intrinsically bad in and of itself. The experiencing of brutal or harsh sensations of the negative character can never be made a good thing in and of itself. So now Trick just adds a new one and says, even if you come up with a really good description of bad, people aren't obligated not to do bad. Wait a minute. Logically? Well, how could they be logically obligated to do anything else? Explain to me, Mr. Trick, what exactly the logical theory of once you've established something to be intrinsically bad, and you're only going to do that single intrinsic thing, and you have a choice that is purely clean to not do it, what logic could possibly provoke you to do bad when you don't have to do it, when it's completely unnecessary? What would be the logic? What logical cause or purpose could be constructed? I would claim, obviously, none. That's within the realm of, unless you come up with some non-intrinsic circumstance, some contextual circumstance. Well, that's because actually there's some sort of aliens from another dimension, universe that came into our universe and turned everything upside down, so we don't really understand. No, you can't use that shit. As the facts stand, and as they're known, there's no logical escape from having to do what's right if you have a free choice to do right or wrong. There's none. There's no, you can't construct a fucking justification. You can't construct a logical purpose. It's just a stupid thing to say there's some gap. There's no fucking gap. Just, I don't know why he's doing this shit, because I don't think he actually believes it, to tell you the truth. I don't think he thinks there's any real gap. I think he just wants to agree with the gapper, so he can say, oh, I agree with your gap. I think it's still blah, 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 even though I agree with you. When he's not, first of all, he's not agreeing on the same gap point. So what good is it to add another gap point? It's just stupid. Alright, so let's play this shit. I'm doing it just because of one word, because I thought the one word was just bang. There's the word. Why didn't do something? He just said it. There's no, we said the magic fucking word. Alright, anyway. So I'll let you have some suspense. Let's play a little.
Methodology.
Right, so yeah, I think, to that first and foremost question, is there a right thing to do? In the biggest general sense that I mean it, that it contains the art, your answer is flat no. And
if you're injecting the art within it, then I think it's a mistake to do that.
Yeah, it's a mistake.
A mistake to come up with a prescription and to have the already settled logic that the prescription has value, that it is in fact has merit. You didn't bother making the prescription because it didn't have merit. You did it exactly for that purpose, to exclude all possible choices through the chain of logic and come up with the right answer. This is the maximum solution. This is the highest efficiency will be achieved. This is the right answer. And then you say, there's no logical obligation to be obedient to the right answer. Bullshit.
But I think everybody does, and we can just broaden the sentence, but that's what I mean.
Yeah, so Hothaday, ironically, the guy who doesn't believe suffering really sucks, intrinsically, is the asshole now arguing with Trick about his stupid gap and pointing out how I think your gap is nonsensical because, yeah, everybody on Earth has already accepted those terms, that if you come up with the right answer, you would be logically obligated to take it seriously.
You say it better, the longer sentence, but you know what I mean. And I think then you have failed in the task of ethics. Yeah?
I disagree. Ethics only applies to the assessment of what is right and what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. That's all ethical assessments.
Right, and it really doesn't mean anything if you're not. If ethics means you ought not to pay any attention, then it doesn't mean anything. Obviously, the ought is there. There's no ethics without ought. There really isn't. Okay, just doing erroneous descriptions that have no meaning, that are not to be taken seriously, would be a pointless enterprise. Description for the sake of description is not ethics. Description for the purpose of oughting is, that does make sense. And it does make sense to call that ethics because it is an endeavor to actualize, to make the value, to improve a circumstance. That's the whole point of having a conversation about ethics, is because it's a management tool, not because it's an unmanagement tool. It's not some sort of for the sake of argument, or for what's the word they use for that when you're just having an academic conversation. Ethics is not an academic conversation. It's a conversation of application. Without application, there's no point in having the conversation.
If you're saying I fail in the prescriptive part of ethics, I disagree with that as well. Just because somebody doesn't have a universal prescription doesn't mean you can't prescribe. It just means that this prescription is contingent. But
contingent on what? Right not being right and wrong not being wrong. So you just sit there and say somehow they are suspect. Somehow this idea of right and wrong, or good and bad, or up and down is somehow suspect. Well, like gravity and like all this other shit, it's not suspect. It's a real fucking goddamn thing. And you to sit there and just claim that it's somehow reasonably disputed. It's not reasonably disputed. It's not rationally disputed. It's only ludicrously disputed.
But the prescription isn't important to the ethic itself.
The prescription is important. Well, I think it is. I think the prescription is the entire function of the word ethics. There's just no point in the conversation otherwise.
Ethic itself is descriptive, and it needs to be descriptive.
Well, I say you failed because in that description it's completely arbitrary on accepting your definition of bad. It's
not a definition. It is a description.
Yeah, again, it's a description of no meaning. If it doesn't have meaning, if it doesn't have any authority, then it isn't a real description. You're not really saying it's bad then. Because the only way you could not do what is mandated by the description, the only way you could not follow the description, and the description is a prescription, is to somehow say bad isn't what you think it is. Somehow there's something missing.
Badness is inherent descriptively.
Of course it's a definition.
It is a definition. All words have a definition, but the definition applies to the description of the
exactly. That's where you're circular, and that where it becomes a mere assertion by yourself to justify what you actually want to achieve.
I think that's just a bullshit argument. There's nothing circular in describing the good and the bad. There's something just plain stupid in saying that bad doesn't mean it's a prescription. As soon as you say good or bad, as soon as you say I have the right answer, the prescription's there.
Say you fail because if anybody wants to stand up to that description and say, no, I'm just a state. You can label how you want, right? But the truth is, when I'm in this state, I report these things. I say I feel this way within language, just so you can understand.
All right, so he's just basically talking about the fact that the fact is we have these experiences, we report the experience. His argument is why should anyone care what experiences are, which doesn't make any sense because we know bad is bad is bad is bad, broken leg is broken leg is broken leg, AIDS virus is AIDS virus is AIDS virus, we hate it no matter where it is. It doesn't have to be in us, it can be anywhere, and it's just plain hateable.
I'm feeling this way, but I feel this way, and that's it. It's not obligatory or incumbent upon anybody to be bothered about the way I feel.
Well, again, logically, if you've defined the bad as the sensation, of course it is. I don't care about you or your personality or this or that or all this other crap or what's your favorite food. No, I don't have to know you personally. I don't have to give a shit about you personally to understand the nature of the enemy. And the enemy is the suffering. I've said that many, many times. I think that's a truth, a fact.
I'm just in a state. If I tell you about it, you now understand what state.
If the state is negative or positive, and we can move to or away from those negative and positive states, then it is obligatory if somebody is concerned about.
Yeah, it's obligatory if somebody is concerned about. So I'll play with that one for a minute. What is no? If somebody respects the negative quality, so it has nothing to do with this concerned about crap trick. So you fell into your own trap. It doesn't. No one needs to invoke any concern rule. Okay, there's no rule of concern. No, it's a logical obligation, and you either meet the logical obligation or you fail to meet it. But there's no other truth here. All right, so that's just bullshit. Concern. Concern is just another word for you either recognize that the bad is bad or you don't recognize the bad is bad. So again, you're back to your bad argument. So they're rejecting your fundamental argument that bad is bad.
Ethics. If they care about being ethical.
If they care about being ethical. Well, again, the argument is constructed as a logical argument. And so you can't claim an is-ought gap if you're going to say logic doesn't apply once I get to the equal sign. So there's no logical gap, so how can there be an is-ought gap? If you're going to bother doing logic to acquire your is's, there's no point in saying, well, no logic needs to be in the answer. Fuck that.
That this is bad.
It is bad.
No,
it's not my definition. It's descriptive, not.
No. Okay, right. So you're going to describe a state that I'm in. Right? You're going to use some words.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that if you're in it or if it's just floating around the universe.
I didn't say. I'm just me and you here. When I use me as myself, it's just an instance.
Okay, but I just wanted to be clear that it doesn't. It really doesn't matter that it's in a person. It could just be floating around the universe, and if we have access to it.
Okay. Well, I don't want to get this, convoluted. I should have gone back a little bit further. Apparently. Oh, now the little back thing isn't reading what time it is. Damn. I have to go back to like here. So to get the magic word. Yeah.
Ethics, from your point.
That's correct. Someone doesn't have to be logical either.
Let me go back a little further. So, I guess I gotta be safe. No, that's too far back. That's too far back.
Our actions are.
That's too far back.
Our ethics applies to. That's where we get the ethical action. That's descriptive.
Yeah. So once you have this, once you have the establishment of this idea of bad, wherever it happens, it's kind of your description of ethics. That the game of ethics is, and all the language contained therein is to minimize the bad.
Is to minimize the bad or move.
I'm just saying that it's once you've established the definition of bad as a word and good as a word and positive as a word and negative as a word, they're established as definers of this idea, okay, of a deficit, of a below acceptable. So you could have this line that says acceptable, and then you can have something that's below the line and something that's above the line. So I mean, there's lots of ways to explain that weight. Being destroyed, not being destroyed, damaged, not damaged. So you could just use lots of metaphors to describe the concept that it's either it cannot be in this condition where it is eaten alive or something because then it won't exist, and that's the bad, and blah 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 blah. So there's lots of ways to get to the point that bad and good mean something. One state it is growing, and one state it is desiccating.
Move away from the bad or prevent the bad. And
no, what's, and like you say, this is where, you know, I guess there is a severe demarcation between you and inmendham, because
yeah, there is. I take it pretty severely.
There's nothing to say, and that's where you allow for the Azot gap, I suppose. There's nothing to say that I can't justifiably reject that.
There we go. I can justifiably reject that.
And say, but I don't want to play that game.
There we go. I can justifiably reject that and say I don't want to play that game. I don't want to play by this, oh, you came up with a right answer rule. Right answers mean something. Yeah. But anyway, I'm saying, so my first argument is to Trick, why bother with that crap? Then my argument to Hothliday to answer his question is, you're saying you have a justification. Well, I want to hear the justification. Go ahead, explain it to me. Explain how it's possible to justify it by saying something rational, though. You can't say something like, I don't want to play by the logic game now. We went to the trouble to logically find an answer. Now I don't wish to be logical. How that's logically acceptable. That somehow that would be a statement of truth. That that the value of logic is preserved even when you stop being logical. Right? If we concede, if we could agree that one of the facts that we're analyzing is that logic is the best hope of getting a right answer, that you have little hope without it, without following those rules, you know, now you're saying that somehow now, like I said, after we found a clean answer, we did this hard logical thing, we beat at it a lot to find out that yes, this conclusion is pretty rock solid. All the little pieces are rock solid solution, and it now excludes a ton of behaviors. And you're just saying, no, I can include all those stupid behaviors because I can ignore all the exclusions that have been created by all the facts that have already been put together. And that's just, how could that logically make sense? Again, it wouldn't make any sense to say, I've retained the integrity of my thinking logically by ignoring logic. No, you can't do that. So once you say, I'm escaping the logical rules, then you've just basically said, fuck you, I've got no brain. I mean, I'm not going to do braining thing anymore. I'm not going to do anything sensible. So I'm going to be insensible. Your justification can only be insensible. So the key word was justification. He said, I could with any justification. Well, you have to have one. And so if there's a nothing universe with nothing in it but a ball of suffering, and you have the power to stop the suffering, and you have no logical reason to maintain it, and there's every kind of logical reason to stop it, why would the description of this is a waste of suffering? That's what's on the thing. You figured out it's a waste of suffering, and now you're saying that I logically am not compelled. There's no ought, there's no establishment of any kind of obligation to do the simple thing of stopping the wasted suffering. And I'm saying there's no logical justification. There's no justification you can make. No rational justification to not fix that. None. And maintain that you're logical. because it's like I said, every fact that it was built on is exclusionary. The answer is exclusionary. There's only one right piece of behavior. There's only one right reaction to that truth. That's it. It's excluded all the others. It's excluded all your other justifications. There are none now. There's a right answer. Either obey it or you failed to obey logic. Alright, that's probably enough. So I haven't suffered through the rest of this yet. You know, this is only the first 40 minutes. I mean, this is just no fun at all. I mean, this is an imbecilic conversation to have about the existence of better and lesser outcomes in the world. It's just as silly could be. Like I said, I've said it. I mean, but I you know, there's more hope for religious kooks. At least they got heaven and hell right. At least they know that there's every logical reason to be afraid of eternal damnation in torture hell. Yeah, at least they're smart enough to figure that out. Fuck. That would be a very bad consequence. Shit. So, anyway, till next time. Who knows when. Been busy, you know, and working, depressing. I guess, yeah, there's been a lot of little things in my way lately. I just had a lot of, you know, I still do, so, yeah. So, be my quiet period. Until next time, whenever that will be.